And now is the time in our service where we enter into our meditation together. So I invite you now to just plant your feet firmly onto the floor. Just allowing your feet to root you to the earth and all of the healing properties contained within Mother Earth. Just allowing that healing to radiate from the center of the earth up through the soles of your feet and to just move throughout your body. And just breathe naturally. And just relaxing into this moment, this very present of moments. And today I want to invite you to place your focus and your attention on the Third Eye Chakra, which is just right between your eyes, just slightly above. Just focus your attention on that space. I'd like to use that space today because I'm going to ask you to visualize something with me. I'd like to ask you to visualize something that brings you joy. What is it in your life that brings you joy? Maybe it's a grandchild or one of your own children. Maybe it's a pet or something, maybe your house or nature or whatever it is that brings you joy. I ask that you just firmly get that into your mind. Just visualize that. Next, we're going to take it a step further because a lot of what we manifest and what we see come into our lives are also things that we feel. So how does this thing that brings you joy, how does it also make you feel when you see it? Do you feel excitement? Do you feel love? How does it make you feel? Just allow that feeling to just radiate throughout your body when you have it. Today's meditation is going to focus on that thing that brings us joy and most importantly the feeling that brings us when we think about that and when we see it and when we touch it. So I ask you to just hold on to this feeling. We're going to go into a moment of silence, and as we sit in this silence, I invite you to just hold on to that feeling and just let it surround you, let it consume you as we move into our moment together of silence. as we begin to bring our focus and our back to this present moment, back to this room, I ask you today to remember that. Remember that which brings you joy. Remember those things. Remember always how those things that bring you joy look. How those things that bring you joy make you feel. And to always use those things as your anchor. Something you could always go back to when maybe life seems difficult or something enters into your path that threatens to block your joy. Because that joy is always within. It's always there. It's a part of you. And I invite you today to not ever forget that. And to always go back to the feeling that you had here today. Because that is your joy. That is a part of who you really are. Always remember. And so it is, and so we allow it to be. Namaste. One thing you may not know about Heather is that Heather is still a new guitar player, so she's really rocking it. All right, I think I know everybody in here, but if there's anyone in here I haven't met, I'm Reverend Evin Wilkins, and if there's anybody online that's tuning in with us for the first time, I'm Reverend Evin Wilkins, and I want to welcome everybody to our service, and happy to have you all here on this, what's turning into a nice fall day. I'm liking it. But before I get started, I need to let you all know that we have some newlyweds with us today. So Venus Washington and Erica Williams, can you raise your hands? They were married a week ago Saturday, right? A week ago yesterday. So we wanted to congratulate you and welcome you here today the first time as wives. So good to have y'all. All right, so I want to just talk a little bit about, last week I was at the Unity Great Lakes Regional Retreat. And for those of you who may not really know much about what that was, Unity Worldwide Ministries, vision them as kind of like the umbrella, and up underneath Unity Worldwide Ministries, we're kind of divided into regions where there's certain states. You know, like ours would include Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Ohio, and I think it's even into northern Kentucky. So there's a few different states in there. But one of the things that's so good about that is we're able to go and network with and meet other Unity ministers, other licensed Unity teachers, and other Unity leaders. And the regions also offer great resources for the different churches as a region, along with a regional representative for each region. And you all kind of met ours a couple of months ago if you saw Reverend Greg Coles. If you listened to him speak on Zoom, he is our regional representative. So he's also the one that facilitated our board training. But one of the things we talked about, and it's one of the things I wanted to share with you, was we talked about coming together with different Unity churches and to begin building relationships with other churches in our region, and to be able to share resources such as technology and classes and other things that help enrich our lives here in the church, but also those that are outside of our walls, out in our communities. So it looked like Diane skipped one of the slides today, but I asked her to kind of keep it to the side. It was, well, I don't have it now, but today after church, I wanted to ask anyone who might be interested in becoming a Unity leader to just stick around for just a few minutes after the service, because Barry Roberts and Debbie Walker are a couple of our licensed Unity teachers in the Unity movement. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how you might be able to start taking some classes to get your LUT. Maybe you might eventually want to become a Unity minister or just be a leader in the Unity of Madison. You know, we've got a city with over 250,000 people. We've got about 80 something between the people that are in service every Sunday and online who attend our service. We got a lot more people than just that we can get out and share our message with. And if you stick around, we might be able to talk a little bit about how you might be able to help be a part of that, because it's us, that are familiar with these teachings and, that care about this movement, want to take it and help it grow. So I invite you to just stick around. There's no obligation, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the classes and how you can even extend it beyond Unity of Madison and become a leader in the Unity movement. So stick around for just a few minutes in here, and we'll talk about that right after the service. But one thing I want to talk about is when I go around Unity ministers, I never fail to come back with a good joke. So I'm going to share a joke. It's a clean one. He told me a few, but this one was clean, so I figured I could share it. So anyway, there's this man, he makes this transition, he passes, and he goes up to heaven, and he's, of course, greeted by St. Peter at the gate. And St. Peter's like, you know what, I'll show you around and give you an orientation of heaven. So he starts walking through there, and they hear people talking about Fillmore. He's like, what's going on? And St. Peter goes, oh, those are the Unity people. So they're sitting there, and they're talking about Fillmore and Fillmorian teachings and things like that. So then he goes to another area, and he hears like these beautiful prayers being recited. And he goes, well, who's that? And St. Peter goes, well, those are the Catholics. They're reciting their beautiful prayers and this and that. And then St. Peter goes, okay, we're going to go by another room, but you have to be very quiet. We don't even want them to know we are here. And the guy's like, well, who is that? And he goes, they're the Baptists, and they think they're the only ones here. I'm Baptist, so I feel like I could say that. But so anyway, I just thought that was kind of funny. The other jokes we can tell privately. It's not fit for Sunday morning. So anyway, but enough of that. So today is week 1 of our fall book study, and it is the Book of Joy, and it's by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and author Douglas Abrams. Now, one of the things, the way I came about this book was last year you all filled out, submitted book topics or books that you maybe wanted to study. And this one was second, so I figured it would be a really good one to jump into. And one of the things that really captured my attention about it was the fact that 2 paths converge in this. We've got the Archbishop and we've got His Holiness, and their paths converge. Their spiritual reliefs converge, and they come together and they work together. I mean, these guys are like getting along, and they're friends, and they're joking with each other, despite any differences in perhaps the way that they believe. 2 different belief systems are coming together, but that's not what these 2 men see. They don't define each other by the different belief systems that they have. These 2 souls, they see the Spirit in one another instead. They see the love in one another instead. They see and they feel the love, and they also feel the interconnectedness that we all share, despite the journey of the path that we are called to walk during this lifetime. And as you can imagine, the theme of the book is joy. I don't think there's anybody in here that would say, no, Evan, I just can't stand any more joy in my life. Please just get it away from me. But, maybe like I said, I'm just speaking for myself, But the good news is that, no matter where we are on the joy spectrum, there's no shortage of it out there, right? There's no shortage of joy out there. There's no shortage of joy inside here. There's just no shortage of joy anywhere on this planet, no matter where you are. We just need to open ourselves to allow more of it to shine through in our lives. Now, I'm hoping that we can share that knowledge with each other over the course of the next 7 weeks as we discuss this book. And I'm hoping we can do so with some of our own stories and our own lives during this course of time. And what I also want to do, I'd like to give people in the congregation opportunities to share too, if you'd like. So if you'd like to be able to do that, please see me, and I will bounce some ideas off of each other about how you can help share some of your own stories with the congregation. Not just in the small study groups, but with the congregation. So see me. If not, I'm going to be approaching people. So just to let y'all know. But because, seriously, it's through each other in which we grow. And I'd like for us to always remember that. So back to our study. Now, I'm not going to go into a full-fledged history lesson here because it's something, of course, you can study further if you're interested. But the Dalai Lama, he fled Tibet in 1959. due to communist suppression in his home country of China. And he managed, luckily for us, to cross the border into India where he was granted political asylum. And that's still where he resides today. And Archbishop Desmond Tutu, he received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1984 for his role in opposition to apartheid in South Africa. So both of these men were involved in these political movements that helped further the consciousness of humankind. But when Desmond Tutu and Dalai Lama come together, one of the main questions, Desmond Tutu, he thinks about this in his mind. My gosh, he's been gone from, you've been gone from your home since 1959. Why are you not morose? Why aren't you more like, how can you be so happy and so joyful? I mean, he's been gone from his home country since 1959. Some of us leave our homes for a few days and we're already homesick, right? It's like, God, I've been gone 3 days now. I'm ready to go home. But imagine me being gone for that many years and just being completely unable to return. You think that if somebody was feeling anything but joy, it might just be the Dalai Lama, right? One of the things that I always like whenever I see pictures of him, he's always smiling, which kind of, you can't help but smile when you see him smiling. But lucky for us, not only have these two men managed to sustain their joy, they're also sharing it with us and letting us know how we too can bring more of it into our own lives. Now, one of the first things that is addressed in the book that blocks our joy is being concerned with those things that are outside ourselves. And this isn't probably new to anyone here if you've heard me speak before. Now, the Dalai Lama states in the book, he says, the problem is that our world and our education remains focused exclusively on external materialistic values. We are not concerned enough with our inner values. And he goes on to say, in order to develop our mind, we must look at a deeper level. Everyone seeks happiness, joyfulness, but from outside. From money, power, big car, big house. Most people never pay attention to the ultimate source of a happy life, which is inside, not outside. Even the source of physical health is inside, not outside. So I read these statements and I paused for a bit just to let it really sink in. I was thinking about myself here, but I was thinking about how often I have strived to provide joy and happiness by seeking those things that are outside myself. We all chase things, right? There's things that we all want in the world, and they're not always found inside ourselves. Sometimes we think, we chase these things and we think, when I obtain this or that, then I'm going to be happy. Yeah, then I'm going to be filled with joy. I've been there. I spent many years working in corporate America, sitting in a gray cubicle every day, thinking to myself, if only I had this kind of job, I would be happy. Or if I lived in this place or that place, I would be happy. I even managed to successfully, or, just say, if I managed to successfully master this spiritual teaching, I'll be happy. That's the key to my happiness right there. But I think you already know the answer to those questions when we ask ourselves, or when we ask ourselves that, okay, if I get this, will I be happy? I think we already know. There's going to be a little bit of happiness for a little while. But how long is it going to stick around? And is it going to bring you true joy? That's the question. So the Dalai Lama reminds us that we aren't even seeking happiness at all. That seems kind of strange, doesn't it? Wait a second, if I'm not seeking happiness, what do you mean? What's the point of all of this? But we think we are, but we aren't. Because we know that happiness is great and all, but like I just said a minute ago, happiness can flee, right? Happiness isn't necessarily sustainable, especially when we base it on something that's outside of ourselves. But what we truly seek is joy. And not Joy sitting back here. We do love Joy, but I happened to make eye contact with her about that time. We do love Joy, but what we truly seek is joy, because joy surpasses happiness, right? Archbishop Tutu tells us that joy subsumes happiness. Joy is the far greater thing. Because joy radiates from within ourselves. It's not based on the car that we drive or the job that we have or how much money we have in the bank account at any given time. Joy radiates from the inside, and it radiates despite any storm that may be churning out here somewhere. You know, it's not based on the same things that we tend to base our happiness on. Now, our book, if you have the book and you look on page 33, it provides a list of things that are associated with joy. So I invite you to look at those. And I'm not going to cover all of those here today because I'd probably be here until the afternoon, and y'all probably wouldn't like that. But I do want to focus on a couple of them today. The first is on excitement. And by excitement, they mean in the book in response to novelty or challenge. So I know for me, I've often had a tendency to run from those things that I find challenging in my life. Don't we all sometimes? You know, we'll think, you know, this is just too difficult. I don't want it. I'm going to run from it. I'm not having any fun. It's not fun. I've got to take off. I've got to separate myself from this. You know, or I'm not sure I can handle this. We may say that. You know, or I'm not sure I'm the right person for this. We may find ourselves saying that. Or sometimes maybe it even just feels too painful to face. Oh, that hurts. That's bringing me pain. I don't want to face it today. Whatever it is, I have found that I myself want to run from it, and I want to run as quickly as possible. Is there anybody else that's ever felt this way? Thank you for not just leaving me hanging out there. But they mention excitement in the book. And I think we've all felt anything but excitement when faced with certain types of challenges. But let me ask this, would challenges be called challenges if they were supposed to feel easy? You know, do you think challenges might be easier if we were to learn to just truly practice the art of release? Does anybody here think that might make them feel a little bit easier to tackle? Now, release is one of our Unity 12 powers. In the Unity website, if you look up the 12 powers and you look up release, they define it as the ability to let go. And release is found in the abdominal region. It's that ability to just let go. And have you ever maybe found yourself in a situation where you just feel completely overwhelmed? I'm hearing some laughing, so I'm going to take that as a yes. Maybe it felt overwhelming because you're like, you know, I have too much to do. I don't have enough time to do it. Or like I said before, you know, I just can't do this. I'm not cut out for this. You know, whatever it is. Maybe you felt as if you didn't know how to get through it. That's another big one. Something challenging is happening. You're like, I don't know how in the heck I'm going to get through this, or how I'm supposed to get through this. But suddenly, somebody steps up to the plate and they offer help. Somebody walks up and says, you know, you look like you may be feeling a little bit of stress. Maybe you could use a little bit of help with this. You know, they come to you and they say, don't worry, you know, I can help you. I can help take some of that load off. All you have to do is trust me and to let me take it. When somebody does that, it's almost an instantaneous relief, isn't it? You're like, oh my gosh, you know, I finally don't have to carry that heavy burden all on my own anymore. I have somebody that I can trust that can just come up and help me and take some of that load off. Bringing a feeling of joy, right? You feel joy when that happens because all of a sudden that burden has been lifted. And you know that you alone don't have to worry about all those moving pieces any longer. You know, maybe that's what the challenge is calling you to do today. To practice the principle of release. And to practice the ability to just let it go. To know that you don't always have to be in control. You don't always have to be thinking one step ahead of thinking of where the pieces are going to fit and when. Just to be able to release and let go and to realize and acknowledge that maybe you don't know how it's going to end. Maybe you don't know what the end result is ultimately going to be. But knowing that however it pans out is going to be just fine. So I want to ask you today, I'm going to say an affirmation and then I would like to ask you to repeat it with me. I release anything and everything that no longer serves my unfolding good. So please say it with me. I release anything and everything that no longer serves my unfolding good. And let's say it again, and let's say it loud. Let's say it from that place of power in our throat. I release anything and everything that no longer serves my unfolding good. Remember that. And when you're feeling like there's a challenge, it just feels like it's too much, remember that affirmation or make up your own and say it over and over until you believe it, because it's true. Because it is in that release where we begin to find pure joy. So another feeling of joy I'd like to address today in the book is exaltation, which they describe in the book as having accomplished a difficult or daring task. Now, I'm not talking about a task here such as what Evil Knievel does. You know, I'm not asking anybody to go out and grab the nearest motorcycle and jump from one side of a canyon to another. However, if you can do that, please let me know that you can do that, because we want to watch. That would be really cool. But we can often find ourselves getting caught up in how difficult something is sometimes, can't we? Something we perceive as difficult. We can get caught up in that and think, oh gosh, back to what I was saying, this is just too hard, it's too difficult. We can get really caught up in that, down into the weeds or the nitty-gritty of it. But I feel too often that we fail to give ourselves enough credit. Because also, how often do we go back to it and congratulate ourselves for how well we handled something that was difficult in the past? You know, we allow ourselves to forget about how we did that, how we came through just fine in some of the other difficult challenges that we've experienced in life. You know, it wasn't the first time. This difficult challenge, whatever you may be facing here today, if you were facing a difficult challenge, it's not the first one that you have faced. And it's not the first one that you're going to come out of just fine. What if we were instead to look at this as an opportunity for growth? An opportunity for growth that lets us not only feel joy when we have it, but to appreciate that joy. And to always have that joy as an anchor to go back to whenever we're feeling as if a challenge is just too much. But how often have we congratulated ourselves and given ourselves a hug or a pat on the back for coming through some of the challenges that we've come through? And for some of those challenges that we're going to go through again and that we're going to come out of just fine, feeling exactly where we are supposed to be. You know, maybe instead looking back and thinking, wow, I did that. I not only made it through that class, through that challenge, that class that life provided me, but I also learned how to do it. It wasn't easy, but I did it. And to reach over and to give yourself a pat on the back. To give yourself a hug and to give yourself some credit. We don't do that enough. To know that you did it and you will do it again. So I'll refer back to our Unity 12 powers again, the power of strength, which is found in the lower part of the back. You know, Unity defines it as the ability to endure, to stay the course, and to persevere. So how might the power of strength play into helping to see through those tasks in life that appear to be difficult? You think strength might help just a little bit? You know, Unity says that strength is to be developed easily, not with tension and strain, but with a relaxed, trusting attitude. So I'm thinking they might just be onto something here. You know, think about what we talked about a little while ago about release and how release can help bring joy. Don't you think that the Dalai Lama had to release when he found himself in exile? You know, he had to release to his higher power. He had to release to the universe, and he had to know that it was going to be okay. That he was okay, and that all was going to work out for his ultimate good. He had to know that. Then he had to really tap into the strength that he is to trust and to relax and to have that smile on his face that we see him so often having. But tension and strain wasn't going to get him anywhere. That wasn't going to make his life any easier. That wasn't going to bring him joy. It also wasn't going to help the situation any. It wasn't going to suddenly make him appear back in his home in China, in a land suddenly without communist rule. It was instead going to rob him of his joy, and he knew that. And it can with us too. So I'm going to now say an affirmation for strength. And I'll say it again, then I'll ask you to say it after with me. I have the strength to accomplish all that is mine to do. So please say it with me. I have the strength to accomplish all that is mine to do. Believe that and own that, because it is the truth. It is the absolute truth. So write that down, say that as many times as you need, create your own affirmation, because it is the truth. So this is just the first week of our book study. And I want to invite you to just really open yourself. Open yourself up. Be willing. Be willing to allow the joy that's already inside of you to come alive. Be willing. That's all that I ask over the course of this next 7 weeks. If you're not in a small book study and you would like to get into one, please email the office and we can line you up with someone. But just even if you're studying on your own, just allow yourself to be open. And enter into this in an expectation of joy, an expectation for joy, an expectation and a willingness to really tap into that joy that's already there, that's already a part of you. Because it's there, it's waiting, and there is an abundance of it. You can never drain the resource of joy. You just have to want to take it. So can everybody here and at home today agree with me that we are going to be open and we are going to be willing for joy? Everybody in agreement? Yeah. All right, I'll take that. Let's say yes really loud. Yes! All right, that's what I like, the enthusiasm. Remember Charles Fillmore, I fairly sizzle with joy and enthusiasm. Namaste.